Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daz. My pronouns are they, them. I'm the Diversity and Liberation Coordinator at the Manchester Students' Union, and welcome to our Women's History Month Feminism 101 Teach Out. Thank you so much for coming today to learn a little bit more about the basics of feminism and gender theory so that you can engage with discussions about gender going forward, even if you've never studied gender studies in your academic career. So today, our first talk is from Professor Cathy Gelbin. So I'll just bring her on to introduce herself.
Hello, hi, I'm Cathy Gelbin, and as Daz said, I have the pleasure of contributing a lecture to this event. It's a fab event, great, and thanks Daz for putting it together. So I think the format is that you'll have a look, you'll watch the lecture, and then I'll be available for questions afterwards, which I look forward to.
Yeah, so as you're watching this lecture on gender and sexuality on screen, please feel free to comment any questions that you have and we can catch them at the end. The lecture's about half an hour long, so not too long, and yeah, have a really good time.
Hello, my name is Cathy Gelbin, and today I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite topics, and that is identity and representation with regard to gender and sexuality. So in this session, we will look at key film theory around gender and sexuality and discuss how these both separate and intertwined routes of investigation can be and have been used to enhance as well as interrogate each other. At the end of this lecture, you should have a good grounding in key theories of gendered spectatorship in light of intersectional approaches, particularly in relation to queer, Black, and diasporic and transnational perspectives. Let's start with some theory. In 1975, Laura Mulvey published her seminal essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, which came as part of broader developments in film and women's studies. From the 1960s onwards, film studies was gaining academic repute, and the decade after saw the emergence of second-wave feminism. Both film and women's studies heavily utilized and to varying degrees reworked Freudian and Lacanian psychoanalysis, which was coming to the fore in the post-structuralist feminism of Luce Irigaray and Julie Kristeva during the 1970s. The French-speaking school of feminist post-structuralism combined the call for heightened female agency with a heavy critique of patriarchal systems of thought, which it termed phallocentrism. Mulvey's essay, then, elaborated the concept of the male gaze. According to Mulvey, cinematic pleasure is manipulated through the figure of the woman as a voyeuristic object, whereby the male protagonist is the bearer of the look and the woman is reduced to being an image. At the same time, unpleasure, in Mulvey's words, arises from patriarchal, phallocentric inscriptions of the female figure, which pose the threat of castration. Mulvey sees the male gaze epitomized in the German-American director Josef von Sternberg's collaborations with screen star Marlene Dietrich, which took off with the 1931 German film The Blue Angel. As Mulvey argues, quote, Sternberg produces the ultimate fetish, taking it to the point where the powerful look of the male protagonist, characteristic of traditional narrative film, is broken in favor of the image in direct erotic rapport with the spectator. The beauty of the woman as object and the screen coalesce. She is no longer the bearer of guilt, but a perfect product whose body, stylized and fragmented by close-ups, is the content of the film and the direct recipient of the spectator's look, unquote. How can this be argued with regard to the Blue Angel, and how might this clip suggest the castration threat which, according to Mulvey, emanates from the fetishized female image? Please leave your comments in written, audio, or video format at the end of this clip. I look forward to seeing your comments.
What's a girl to do? Can't help it. Love's always been my game. Play it how I may. I was made that way. Can't help it. Man cluster to me like moths around the flame. And if their wings burn, I know I'm not to blame. Falling in love again, never wanted to. What's a girl to do? Can't help it.
Some of this could, of course, be tongue-in-cheek, and both reiterate and undermine what Mulvey terms the male gaze. See if you can spot such moments in the following clip from Billy Wilder's Some Like It Hot, which seems to preempt our current understandings of gender performativity.
Florida Limited leaving on track 1 for Washington, Charleston, Savannah, Jacksonville, and Miami. All aboard! All aboard!
What's the matter now?
How do they walk in these things, huh? How do they keep their balance?
Must be the way the weight is distributed. Now, come on.
It is so drafty. They must be catching cold all the time, huh?
Will you quit stalling? We're gonna miss the train.
I feel naked. I feel like everybody's staring at me.
With those legs, are you crazy? Now, come on.
It's no use. We're not going to get away with it, Joe.
My name is Josephine, and this was your idea in the first place.
Look at that. Look how she moves. That's just like Jell-O on springs. Must have some sort of built-in motor or something. I tell you, it's a whole different sex.
What are you afraid of? Nobody's asking you to have a baby. Is it just to get us out of town? Once we get to Florida, we'll blow this whole setup.
Joe, this time I am not gonna let you talk me into something that...
Extra, 7th floor in the North Side garage. Feared bloody aftermath. Extra.
You talked me into it. Let's go, Josephine.
Not a girl, Geraldine.
Rosella? Move along, Dolores, will you?
Trombone?
Hey, Olga, how's your back?
Trumpet.
Well, here we are.
Are you two from the Polio Puff Agency?
Yes, we're the new girls.
Brand new.
This is our manager, Mr. Beanstalk.
How do you do?
And I'm Sweet Sue.
My name is Josephine.
I'm Daphne.
Hmm?
Saxophone, bass. Am I glad to see you girls. You saved our lives.
Likewise, I'm sure.
Where did you girls play before?
Here, there, and around, and...
We spent 3 years at the Sheboygan Conservatory of Music.
All aboard. You're on berth 7 and 7A.
7 and 7A.
Thanks ever so.
You're welcome.
Feelings mutual.
Up to Daisy.
Fresh.
Looks like Poliakoff came through with a couple of real ladies.
You better tell the other girls to watch their language.
I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore.
Second wave feminism, which had begun in the United States, led to the creation of particularly striking feminist organizational structures and cultural activity in 1970s Western Germany. From the iconic year of 1968 onwards, 1/3 of the students at Berlin's German Film and TV Academy were women, and a number of them went on to become pioneers of Frauenfilm, which could translate into women's film in English. Among them was Helge Sander, who founded and edited the early feminist film journal Frauen und Film, Women and Film, in 1974. The late 1970s also saw the formation of the Association of Women Filmmakers in Germany, which gave a huge boost to women's filmmaking. The themes of the cinema came under the heading of "The Private is Political." The films proposed, as in Sander's own 1978 Redupers, the all-round reduced personality, a radical critique of patriarchal capitalism through extended portrayals of women's private lives. This was often coupled with a critique of the patriarchal foundations of fascism and National Socialism, as in another filmmaker's work, Helma Sander's Brahms' 1980 Germany Pale Mother. Among the important pioneers of women's film were also the Belgian filmmakers Agnes Varda and Chantal Akerman. Akerman, who was born in Brussels to Holocaust survivors from Poland, was among the first to bring second-generation female Jewish sensitivities to the screen. The most prolific contemporary proponent of Frauenfilm is, no doubt, the West German filmmaker Margarete von Trotta, whose older work has recently seen intense restoration and new critical acclaim. Von Trotta can be considered among the most persistent filmmakers to date in the attempt to establish the female subject in social and visual history.
Leute sind Mörder und Rufmörder. Es ist ja geradezu ihr Beruf, unschuldige Menschen um ihre Ehre zu bringen.
Ich habe meine ganze Kraft, meine ganze Energie da reingesteckt. Und ich lasse mir das nicht wieder wegnehmen.
Ich habe von dir geträumt. Ich habe geträumt, dass ich dich befreie.
Weg vom Fenster kriegen die uns nicht. Sie keine Macht über unsere Seele haben. Wie kommt das, dass Menschen über andere Menschen entscheiden dürfen?
Völker können und sollen in Frieden zusammenleben.
But the European feminist auteurs of the 1970s and early 1980s were not just concerned with putting independent female characters on screen, even though this undoubtedly mattered to them. The lack of female protagonists beyond the male gaze was, quite literally, vividly illustrated by US cartoonist Alison Bechdel's 1985 comic strip The Rule in her book Dykes to Watch Out For, which has two women wanting to go to the movies. One of them, Ginger, explains to the other that she will only go to a movie if it satisfies at least 3 basic requirements. 1, it has to have at least 2 women in it who, 2, talk to each other about, 3, something besides a man. The last movie she was able to see, she says, was Alien. Pretty strict, but a good idea, finds the other woman. But as nothing meets their requirements is on, the women decide to stay in instead. This is now often referred to as the Bechdel test, and some Swedish cinemas even implemented it in their film ratings in 2013. Along the lines of the 1970s post-structuralist feminist idea of women's writing as inherently cyclical and heterogeneous, however, European feminist auteurs also sought to establish a particular aesthetic of women's film, which included implementing Brechtian alienation techniques to rupture the melodramatic plot conventions with their gendered coding to highlight social conditions instead, relying on biographical and documentary media, hypermediality to rupture the male gaze, and breaking the fourth wall to establish the female protagonist as the bearer of the look. Today, this aesthetic of the private as political can look a little staid, but it is recognizably distinct. Can you detect it in this clip from Chantal Akerman's 1972, The Chamber? I look forward to your written audio or video comments here. All along, second-wave feminism had been falling into decline in the United States. Western Europe followed suit in the following decade. During this period, feminists vehemently disagreed over issues such as sexuality and pornography, and in the United States and Western Europe, women from Black and ethnic minority backgrounds increasingly criticized the mainstream women's movement for its Eurocentric premises and obliteration of cultural and ethnic diversity. Postmodern ideas from Judith Butler's concept of gender performativity and the rise of queer theory in the 1990s then criticized the gender essentialisms in much of second-wave feminist political activism and creative culture. Criticisms also saw second-wave feminism deeply steeped in bourgeois preconceptions, including psychoanalysis. Such approaches sought to establish class-based inquiries instead and locate working-class women in the historical narrative. Films from the 1980s onwards boldly and self-consciously positioned themselves at these various intersectional crossroads. Stephen Frear's 1985 film My Beautiful Laundrette hailed the rise of British diaspora cinema with its queer love story between a young Pakistani and an English fascist, while Gurinder Chadha's 1993 Baji on the Beach featured a group of women reflecting Britain's multicultural society who take a trip from Birmingham to Blackpool. The film both launched and cemented the careers of a number of South Asian actors in Britain. Note Shaheen Khan, who plays the lead protagonist Simi, sport the ubiquitous black leather jacket that was a symbol of lesbian, queer, and feminist sensitivities in the 1980s and early 1990s.
Hello, sisters!
These implicit gender and sexual overlaps were consistent with earlier feminist films, whose idealized portrayals of sisterly feminist love among women often conveyed lesbian and sometimes overtones.
It really is good to see some new faces. There's Manju Sharma's daughters at the back. And also Rekha Tendon, who's visiting from Bombay. Now, Rekha's brother-in-law has kindly paid for our new roof, so please be nice to her. One more thing. It is not often that we women get away from the patriarchal demands made on us in our daily lives, struggling between the double yoke of racism and sexism that we bear. This is your day. Have a female fun time.
But such implicit queer meanings, which Gurinder Chadha revisited in her 2003 Bend It Like Beckham, this time with Shaheen Khan in the role as mother, were of course not enough for queer people who were yearning and demanding explicit representation, where it no longer sufficed to portray queerness as the site of oppression. Chadha apparently edited out a number of more clearly connoted queer storylines from the film. The hedonistic trend of the 1990s, with their postmodern playfulness, came in a world that had just experienced the falling of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Cold War, which felt like a great coming together. To cinematic audiences, this mood seemed perfectly encapsulated in Jenny Livingston's 1990 US film Paris is Burning, which featured the African-American drag scene in New York City, from which Madonna borrowed, if not stole, the title of her famous album, Vogue.
You have space to do all that you intend to. This movie is about the ball circuit, a competition amongst gay people under one roof.
It's like crossing into the looking glass.
A house, their families, kids with broken homes or no home at all.
My name is Angie Extravaganza, and I am the mother of the House of Extravaganza.
I'm Willie Ninja, the mother of the House of Ninja.
Ninjas hit hard, they hit fast.
We come out to assassinate.
I am Pepper LaBeija, the legendary mother of the House of LaBeija, and I've been around for 2 decades. Reigning, that is.
Some of them say that we're sick, we're crazy, and some of them think that we are the most gorgeous, special things on earth.
They call them competitions. But believe me, they're wars.
And indeed, it was with regard to this film that bell hooks criticized Laura Mulvey's gaze idea as a reflection of bourgeois white Eurocentrism made for the white spectator. Can you find examples in this clip that would illustrate bell hooks' criticism? Please post your comments in written, audio, or video format at the end of this clip.
I guess that's just a statement of the time.
It speaks for itself.
It was a period of widespread optimism and fun, even where the private remained political, and battles against oppression needed to be fought. A perfect expression of this sense can be found in Cheryl Dunye's 1996 US film The Watermelon Woman, which seemed to return to bell hooks' criticism by refracting the white cinematic gaze and positioning the queer black woman as the agent of the look.
Hi, I'm Cheryl, and I'm a filmmaker. Nah, I'm not really a filmmaker, but I have a videotaping business with my friend Tamara, and I work at a video store, so I'm working on being a filmmaker. The problem is I don't know what I want to make a film on. I know it has to be about black women because our stories have never been told, so I've been renting movies. No, I haven't been renting movies, but I get movies from the video store that I work at, and I've taken all these films out from the 30s and 40s with black actresses in them, like Hattie McDaniel and Louise Beavers. And in these films, in some of the films, the black actresses aren't even listed in the credits, and I was just totally shocked by that. So in this one film that came into the store, Plantation Memories, I saw the most beautiful black mammy named Elsie. Her name, the Watermelon Woman. That's right, Watermelon Woman. Is Watermelon Woman her first name, her last name, or is it her whole name? I don't know, but girlfriend has it going on, and I think I've figured out what my project's going to be on. I'm going to make a movie about her. I'm going to find out what her real name is, who she was and is, everything I can find out about her. Because something in her face, something in the way she looks and moves is serious, is interesting. And I'm going to just tell you all about it.
As we arrive at fourth wave feminism's altogether bleaker look at gender relations, queer cinema seems to be thriving, though in similarly less hedonistic ways. This will be the subject for our seminar discussion. In the meantime, please think through the preparatory questions and leave your comments and thoughts on these in written audio or video format at the end of this clip. How does Mulvey define the term male gaze, and what does this mean for queer representation? Which film not discussed in this lecture would epitomize the male gaze to you, and can you think of a filmic moment which actively acknowledges and subverts the male gaze? I look forward to your comments and to seeing you in seminar.
I don't know, you know, all this dinner and...
And what?
And friendly conversation.
Well, I have to confess that I am a little... No, I'm very attracted to you. What?
I was just gonna say that you're really a cute woman.
I know that. I heard what your friend said at the video store.
You heard us?
I've had the hots for you since the minute I saw you shelving tapes. Can I have a cigarette?
Sure, help yourself.
Is the fire in there too?
Yeah, but it's a little lighter.
So, Now that we know that we're attracted to each other, what do we do? Don't you think we should kiss?
You're a no-good lying tramp, that's what you are. Committing a sin that will surely send you to hell.
I am going to hell, but not for being a tramp, but for being poor and living on the streets like I've had to do. Why can't I be happy fitting into their world? God made me this color and he did it for a reason.
I'm still in shock over the whole having sex with Diana thing. I've never done anything like this before. Let me assure you, the hip-swinging lesbian style isn't my forte. You remember the Yvette thing? I'm just an old-fashioned girl trying to keep up with the times, but Diana just threw me for a loop. I mean, she's not my type, but I liked it. I don't know what to say next. Maybe it all has to do with this film project, which is finally coming together. Hollywood, the Watermelon Woman, Faye Richards, and Diana?
Thank you so much for that amazing lecture.
Yeah, good pleasure. It's actually, it was a lecture that I prepared last semester for a film studies class. And it's nice that it sort of finds further use.
Yeah, there are loads of movies in that I have not watched myself and will definitely need to go and check out. I've already posted it in the chat. If anyone has any questions for Cathy, you can put them in the comments and we can answer them here. Or I guess you can... are you on social media?
Do you mean me?
Yeah.
Sorry, no, not anymore. And not after the Cambridge Analytica scandal, I decided to shut down my...
That's fair. But yeah, thank you so much for contributing this lecture. It was really, really interesting, and I'm sure lots of people will learn stuff from it. We don't seem to have any questions in the chat, but people can... I can post your email address if people have any further questions, or they want to talk to you about your course, or they're interested in taking some of your courses in the future.
Yes. You can email me at cathy.gelbin@manchester.ac.uk, or if you email Daz, I'm sure she can also forward your questions to me. But I think she said, Daz, you said you would post my email address. Great.
Yeah.
Look forward to hearing from you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And if you're interested in coming to any more of our Feminism 101 teacher lectures, we have a session at 3:30 about the wave model of feminism, presented by Tanya Shu. So that will be same place, Students Union Facebook page and YouTube page. And yeah, see you then. Have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.
Thanks, Tess, for organizing.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye.